Hi there, today we've got a really interesting and rare piece of automotive memorabilia. In fact, this is actually going to go back on a car, so it's not ended up on somebody's wall. This is off a Citroen, but strangely enough, this is a British-built Citroen. Back in the last century, Citroen actually had a factory in Slough, and between 1953 and 1960, Citroen made just under 700 2CVs in the UK. They were different to the standard ones because they had upgraded trim on the interior, they had chrome bumpers put on. Obviously they're all right-hand drive because they were made for the British market, but one of the really special features they had was this absolutely fantastic badge that went on the front of this Citroen 2CV. Less than 700 were made, and not all of those actually had these badges fitted. So let's have a look at them. They are an absolute work of art. Although they're a really nice design, these are in a bit of a state. They're showing their age, but thankfully because they're made of brass, we shouldn't run into too many problems. First thing we'll do is book them in, and then we'll take a photograph of these. That photograph will get printed out and it's put together with the paperwork to accompany the job around the workshop. We've already stripped the paint off these, but what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the old plating and get them back to the bare brass. We've got to wire these up on copper wire so that we can pass an electric current through them. These are now going to be placed into the stripper tank. This is mostly sulfuric acid with some other bits in it. Here you can see them fizzing away. We actually apply the electricity the opposite way round to remove the plating. After swilling the acid off, we can see what we've got to work with. Now the water's dried off them and they're ready to go through for polishing. Now we're in the polishing shop. We're going to attack these with an abrasive belt. Now because these are very thin and they're made from quite a soft metal, brass, we're going to use a very fine abrasive belt. This is probably about a 400 or a 600 because we've got to go gently. It would be very, very easy to polish through these. We're now moving on to a different tool. This is more flexible than the abrasive belts, so we can get further into the little recesses. The tool is actually a soft stitch mop, a cotton mop, and then it's been dressed up with a fine abrasive. Now the tool's being changed. This is a sisal brush, so this is finer than using abrasives because we're going to be using polishing compound. We're just cleaning the mop out there and applying some polishing compound. What we're trying to achieve here is we're going to remove the abrasive marks that we've put in the previous operations. When you're polishing, you're always trying to refine the surface by using ever finer polishing compounds and abrasives, always removing what you did on the previous operation. Now the brush is coming off and we're going with a finer mop. We're also going to change the gloves at this point because we don't want to have any grit on our gloves, so we're changing to some fine cotton gloves. This way we know we're not going to accidentally scratch it with some abrasives while we're doing the final polishing operation. This final part is what we would call mopping, or it's sometimes known as buffing. You can really see how lovely and bright these have polished up. If you don't get them to this sort of mirror finish, they're never going to be any good when they're plated. One last job before they go into the plating shop is we need somewhere to wire these up. If we wire to one of the holes, we'll get a great big wire mark over the front face where you see it. Now that we're in the plating shop, we're going to wire these up on copper wires so that we can pass an electric current through them. After all, it is called electroplating. We're just now attaching a weight. That's to stop the hook from dancing around on the bar when it's in the plating tank. We want it to stay still and in one place. Cleanliness is most important in plating. We've got to get every bit of dirt and grease off. So the only way to do this effectively is manually and inspect it closely as you're doing it to make sure that it's perfectly clean. Now it's going into the electric cleaner tank. In here we pass an electric current through it, and that way it removes any oxides from the surface to ensure that the plating bonds properly and doesn't flake off. This is going through a rinse system, and that's a dilute sulfuric now, then back into the clean water, and here we're going to head into the nickel tank. It's the nickel that gives all the weather protection and good looks to the actual chrome finish. Time to put some power on. It's going to cook away in here for a good half hour or so to get a nice coating on to give a lovely finish. As it comes out, you can already see it's bright and shiny and almost looks finished, but because this is still in nickel, apart from the slight yellowy colour, this would tarnish. So into the chrome it goes. We'll get some power on the chrome. It's only in here for a couple of minutes because the chrome layer is just there to stop the nickel from tarnishing. It changes the colour, but it's only a very, very thin coating. Now it's out of the chrome, we need to neutralise the chromic acid, which is what's happening here. Now that's done, we can swill it in water, hang it up to dry, and have a look. Before the job's finished, we need to unwire it all and inspect it. In order to get the watermarks off so that we can see what we're dealing with, then we need to give it a wipe with some polish. Now we know it's okay, it's safe to take those tags off. If we're just going to heat them gently and they fall straight off. This job's slightly unusual, we don't normally paint things, but this time we want to see what they look like. And what a beautiful design they are. Lovely Art Deco badges, all restored, ready for the customer.